It's time for the Wrestling Observer Extra.
I said one more time for old time's sake.
With Dave Meltzer, right here on The Law. Live audio wrestling.
And let's go. We're now smoking with the best.
You got it. That is what we are doing. It's hour 2 of The Law, headed to San Jose. Lots to talk about this week.
Boy,
so
that's
let's
for sure.
Get right to it. Dave Meltzer, welcome to the program.
How are you guys?
Oh, we're all right, Dave. We sat through Roadblock tonight. Had ups and downs on our end. What did you think of the event?
Yeah, I thought it was one of the weaker pay-per-views they've done all year.
Mm-hmm.
I think the crowd didn't help.
No.
But the booking didn't help either in a lot of ways. The main event, I mean, they did all those table breaks trying to make people forget what a weak finish it was. And, the Charlotte and Sasha Banks match I thought was booked like totally backwards. It's like the baby face. I mean, the baby face has it won, and the heel comes back to just tie it up and then win in overtime. It's like that's the total baby face booking.
Hey, we haven't even talked about that, but that's absolutely true. In retrospect, though, I mean, even though you have Charlotte being the heel getting the win there, do you feel that the women should have been on last?
Especially, because there was the heel win, maybe no, and instead they wanted to end with the table breaks. So I can see why, but usually you would want an Iron Man match on last and have a clean finish last. But I think that if they, I think their feeling was that the Shield get together would camouflage the finish, and that was better than the heel finish in the women's match, I guess. Or maybe they just didn't want to do the women on last on this pay-per-view. I don't know. I
think we've just seen that Shield getting back together one too many times recently to make it impactful at all.
I know.
I thought they got off to a great start, Dave. I thought that tag match off the top was excellent.
Agreed. Yeah, I thought the best thing on the whole show was tag.
Yeah,
that was really good.
And Neville. Now, the plan for Neville going heel here, just going to be one of the solid guys in 205 Live now?
Yeah, thank God. I mean, he should have been there. They need more star power, and they need some guys that are going to be doing stuff that it's like the whole thing with the cruiserweights is, to me, that they've got to do the spectacular stuff, and at least he's spectacular, and they haven't been using him on television, so it's, it fits. It gives him something to do. He should be one of the stars. Him and if they get him and Austin Aries both in that division with the rest of those guys, and then Grand Metalik, and Tozawa. I think at that point the division actually is pretty strong after a kind of weak debut.
I think he needs a couple of strong heels, like you say, Neville and Aries, because really, for me, 205 Live, it doesn't have any real great characters. I mean, you get great wrestling, but you don't have any real great personalities yet on that show.
Yeah, I think Aries is a really strong personality, so that could help. I'm not so, and Neville at least has credibility from being on the main roster. But so I wonder what that means as far as Neville with touring, because the cruiserweights don't tour, but Neville's been touring with the main roster, so it's going to be very, but they can always change things up, however they need to do it.
The other big event that we were watching this week was, of course, total Nonstop Deletion. We've spent some time talking about it and had some calls. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, I was entertained for 2 hours a lot. So, I mean, but I mean, I could tell watching it that there's going to be a lot of people who don't like it and a lot of people who absolutely love it. And I didn't know which would be bigger than which. And the rating came in, and it was, with all the hype and everything like that, I have to say that I was very disappointed in the rating. I think the rating told a story that maybe, there are people who love it, but a lot of other people probably just wanted to watch a wrestling show during that period. And so it did slightly below what they're averaging in ratings, but, whatever. But with all that hype, I mean, it should have been, the highest rated in weeks. I
was a little surprised, Dave, that they would stick that match with Lashley and Eddie Edwards on this type of program, because I just thought it didn't fit in at all, and I really thought it demeaned the title. I mean, we didn't even get a finish in that match.
Yeah, and it was meant, it almost came across as like really campy comedy as opposed to a championship match, yeah. But they got to do those spots with Lashley and the fans and everything, so maybe that was the reason that they did it. And at least, they got their champion. I think they thought it was going to be like a really widely viewed show, so I think they probably wanted the big championship match on the show as well.
Right.
Now, looking forward into the new regime that's approaching with TNA and going into tapings early next year, What do you know what the thought process is on this particular aspect of the show? We had Jeremy Borash on last week, and he talked about the evolution of the product. The product's been so stagnant and been shot the same way for so long. This definitely is different. Do you see TNA pushing this way, or is this rating a sign of we've gone too far?
I mean, I don't want to jump on the rating too much, but the rating, but you have to you have to look at it and at least interpret it to a degree. I mean, to me, even even loving that show when it was over, my thought is like you can only do a show like that maybe every couple months at tops.
Oh yeah.
I don't think if you do something like that weekly, I don't think it would work at all.
I think it's too much to have 2 hours of it. I think
I think you might be right.
Drips and drops, I think it's great. I think it keeps you intrigued, but having a full 2 hour on, I thought it was too much.
Yeah. Maybe that's why when they did it for 20 minutes, it really did help the ratings.
Yeah.
Because then it's like it's part of the show, but when it's the entire show, some people do tune in wrestling like TNA to see, I think the loyal fans tune in to see TNA, what they see as TNA wrestling or something approximating a wrestling television show. And, 2 hours. I mean, I know why it was worth a try. And I thought, I don't want to say anything negative about what it really was. It was worth a try. I wouldn't be opposed to doing it again a couple of months later, but maybe it's best, like with 20-minute segments once a month or once every 2 months, more than 2 straight hours.
All right, Dave, lots of news this week. First, let's do a bit of an injury report. Zack Ryder got hurt on SmackDown. What's the diagnosis you've heard at this point?
So he had knee surgery during the week, and it was reconstructive. It was major, so he's going to be out for a long time.
Oh, wow.
Wow, so in that case, that's unfortunate because he won the Battle Royal.
Yep, they got the tag title shot.
I mean, it's just unfortunate for anyone to have that kind of an injury because, you're taken off the road for a long time, and these guys, guys like him just love to be wrestlers, so it's...
Well, and the other one, too, Dave, pretty nasty at this point, Samoa Joe apparently is hurt?
Yeah, I don't know details. He was on the road, with the NXT brand, but he was not cleared to wrestle. So I'm wondering if, I don't want to speculate on when it might be, but I do know that in the Melbourne match when they showed it, his head was busted open. So maybe it had to do with taking a hard knee strike, but I don't know. I mean, him and Nakamura were both pretty banged up, though.
Have you heard any talk about him moving up the roster now that he's lost twice to Nakamura?
Only speculation from fans and only like me wishful thinking. I mean, no one's actually told me it
right.
Officially. It makes when I watched the last match, it was very clear. The cage match was the end of the feud, and with the feud over, it's very much time for him to move up. I think that's if anything was keeping him back is to tell the whole story of the feud, and the feud's over.
Yeah.
One of the biggest surprises on tonight's card was Mick Foley showing up because I was under the impression he was done for a little while and will be even more done in the new year because he's got to go for hip surgery. What happened with Mick?
Yeah, they just had a role for him, and they asked him to come in. He was supposed to be off until January 2nd, so he's going to be on tomorrow as well since they're doing the whole thing what they did last Monday, where, they've been building it up and building up. The reason that they finished that storyline and he revealed that, the whole thing was a ruse on him to get Sammy to do that. But now for whatever reason, after revealing that he was doing that, he went back to being the Mick Foley of 2 weeks ago on this show, which made no sense at all to me, because it was like he wasn't taking that bad of a beating. I just thought that whole thing was just weird. But, yeah, they talked him in, whatever. They asked him to come back and do TV this week, and then next week he's off. So it was originally supposed to be off for a couple weeks. But, yeah, as I think you mentioned, he's having hip replacement surgery very soon or next year, and then he'll be off for a while again.
Also, WWE's big announcement this week was the UK tournament that they're putting on. The common thought, or people jumping to conclusions about this being a response to ITV and World of Sport, is there any merit to that, Dave, would you say, or is that just pure speculation and coincidence?
They deny it, and people who claim that they absolutely 100% know say that it's absolutely a response. I know for sure that, Vince, when the thing came out with that ITV was doing this was very much that they don't want that, and you know how that it's the history of the thing. The last thing they want is another company having more exposure than them in the UK market.
Yep.
So I don't think they want that. And when they talked about the TV series, the UK TV series they're working on, my impression is they're going to at least make an attempt to get it on regular television in the UK as opposed to the network. I mean, if they can't get the right deal, I'm sure it'll be on the network. But the idea very much was to do something to head off the ITV product.
And I'm curious, Dave, about the involvement of Nigel McGuinness in this. It seems to just come out of nowhere for me. I mean, he was never able to work there because of medical issues, but now seems to be he's going to do commentary. Do you know of any other role and how this came about with Nigel?
I don't know how it came about, but I've heard that, talk of him being a trainer at the Performance Center.
Yeah.
When I heard he was going, that's what I heard. But, he can do that, and, it's only 2 days, and give him, because he does do a good job on commentary, actually a really good job. So, and I think that one of the things of having a British show is, having a British, announcer, I think makes all the sense in the world, and they didn't have a British announcer because they have the American announcers, for England.
Well, they have Regal.
They could do they could have done Regal. Regal's really good at it too.
Yeah.
So,
I thought it was a 3-man booth, Dave. Cole, Regal, and McGuinness.
Maybe you're right. I only heard Cole and McGuinness, but
okay.
Maybe it will be a 3-man booth. I don't know.
Along with that, another departure from Ring of Honor, as we talked about Nigel McGuinness, is Michael Elgin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here's someone who's been on the shelf with the eye injury, but now reports are that he's leaving Ring of Honor and starting
He wasn't really around hardly at all. I memean, he's a New Japan guy.
Yeah.
And most of the shows that he worked were through New Japan, and he's still going to work through New Japan. So it's but yeah, he was booking himself on some dates, and there was I don't know, I heard like just communication issue breakdown. He got mad, and
Dave, his whole relationship with Ring of Honor seems to have been a very rocky one. I mean, there was that whole thing where he had the belt and then they took it off him very quickly, actually at the show here in Toronto when he dropped it to Jay Briscoe. It seems like it's always been a bit of a rocky road with Michael Elgin and ROH.
Yeah, I think when he was moving up, when he was kind of climbing, I never heard of much, but when he got to the top, it seemed like it just, yeah. And I know he was really happy that he got the New Japan deal.
Well, that was always his dream, right, was to work in Japan.
That's what I heard. I mean, not from him, but yeah, I've always heard that he wanted to do it, and it took a while also because, New Japan didn't pick him up right away, but as soon as they picked him up, I remember, everyone, I think it was at the G1 a couple years ago, and everyone was like, oh, he's not going to do well. And he ended up, just becoming a huge star over there. The people, Intercontinental Champion. I mean, he's done real well. I'm surprised he's not at the Tokyo Dome show.
He fits in so well, that's for sure. You mentioned the G1. Dave, we're hearing G1 coming to L.A. Is this true? This sounds amazing.
My impression is 1 or 2 shows in Long Beach. Yeah, but somewhere in Southern California, it's certainly been the talk for a couple of months.
So this would be like the beginning of the tournament?
Yeah, I think it would be like mid to late July would be about the time frame. So they would start it instead of starting it in Sapporo, which they've done every year,
right,
or in recent years, they would probably start it in Long Beach or L.A., and then maybe fly to Sapporo and then finish the tournament in Japan.
Wow.
That'd be wild. Because, the first 2 nights of G1, they always have really good matches, and they kind of have to. So but I don't know how, G1's a real big deal to the fans who know, but I don't know how widespread that would be.
Yeah.
For them to be running a show without Ring of Honor, only with their guys. It's a risk.
And how big of a building do you do, right? Like, you can't do a super big place, What do they do?
No, yeah. I had the impression that they would want to do about a 3,000 seater, which hopefully they could do that. But I'm not, it's uncharted waters. But I've never, the amount of people who watch and are really into Japanese wrestling. I mean, it is more because of the internet than ever before. And you guys know from Toronto, they do sell out Toronto, and they probably could on their own, in the Ted Reeve Arena, maybe.
Right.
But LA is a different market. I think maybe part of it is the idea that there's a lot of Japanese living in LA, but I've never seen the Japanese don't really support professional wrestling so much, compared to compared to Latin. At least that's what I've noticed. But then again, it's not like New Japan has ever run big shows in the United States.
Right.
Maybe they would. I don't know.
Right.
Dave, we've got to say goodbye for this week. The Observer this week, I'm guessing coverage of the Fox card and Roadblock, of course, and Deletion.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, those would be main things. And I'm going to do a story on Mario Milano as well.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
And, and a story on the changing world. I mean, we're 2016, 2017. WWE's getting really, really aggressive. The independents really grew, and I think that someone wants to kind of like hammer them over the head with a hammer to make sure that they kind of go back down to where they used to be. So it's kind of like one of the stories I'm going to be working on.
Nice.
Great. Look forward to reading that, Dave, and we'll talk to you next week at the same time.
Okay, have a great week.
Actually, we won't. Next week, it's
that's
Christmas,
it.
Dave.
We're taking a break.
So Merry
you're
Christmas.
taking a
Yeah,
break,
Merry
so
Christmas.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is actually Christmas Day Eve, so we will not be doing a show. But we'll talk to you in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, have a
Merry
good
Christmas,
holiday,
Dave.
Dave.
Dave Meltzer, WrestlingObserver.com is where you can find his fine work.